All right. Welcome to the show. My name is Shane, and today we're going to be talking a little bit more about Candace Owens, talk a little bit more about her channel, be talking a little bit more about what's happened since she made a comment. I made a comment, and then she read one of my comments out loud on her channel, and as you guys know, her channel is quite popular. Depending who you talk to, it's arguably one of the top podcasts, especially in North America. I would argue the world. And I wanted to just go over some of the comments that I've been getting in regards to just talking about Candace Owens on my channel. And if you're someone that maybe is like, oh man, I might have said something not so good, now's your chance to clean it up a little bit. If you think you wrote something that maybe was a little bit nasty, now I'm giving you a couple of minutes to go and clean it up, delete your comment or whatever. Otherwise, we're going to be reading some of these comments because it's interesting that we live in a region of the world that we value freedom of speech. We value it. We talk about it all the time. We're always saying this, that it's so nice to be in Canada, in the United States, because we are free to think outside the box, to talk about issues in our day, talk about celebrities, talk about various podcasts. You name it, we can do it. But there's something interesting that happens when you start talking a little bit about some of the disagreements when it comes to Israel, perhaps political, perhaps it's something on the in the realm of, hey, we don't like to go to war. We don't want to send our children to war against other nations, period. We just don't want to do that. But somehow people get pegged as anti-Semite for doing that. And I don't think it's as big of a thing here in Canada as it is in the United States. Like I don't hear people walking around saying I don't support Israel here in Canada. Like a lot of our churches will say, you know what, because Israel is God's nation, if you will, we agree with everything that they do. Like we just give all of Israel a pass. And for me, the way I look at things is I look at it through a biblical lens. And I'm going to be making a video about this probably in the next few days or so, talking about the idea of, as people are saying, if you are against the government of Israel, you're basically saying you don't want them to have that land. And nobody said that, but that's what people jump to right away. As soon as you say, hey, I don't agree with going to war for other countries, including Ukraine. I don't believe in sending money over there to help support the war, to pay for drones, pay for all their missiles. You guys know me. You know my stance on Ukraine. I hate the war that's going on there on both sides. Civilians seem to be always caught in the middle of this. And I don't agree with targeting civilians at all, period. Zero, period. So one of my first videos on this channel was basically coming against President Zelensky because he issued martial law almost right away when the war started. And I get it. I understand that you got to do that. But as far as I know, it's not lifted. And they were supposed to have elections this year to vote in a new president. And he vetoed that because during martial law, you can't have a vote. You're not allowed to go and vote because you're under martial law. So that's been going on for years now. And there doesn't seem to be any signs that that's going away. And I know Zelensky went to Israel to ask for weapons. He asked for the blueprints for the Dome of the Rock, and they told him to go fly a hike. Why? Because Israel has a deal with Russia that if, let's say, anyone in Syria attacked Israel, that they have the right to defend themselves and they can go and go on the attack. And over Syrian skies, Russia protects those skies. So Russia will not attack Israel if they attack Syria, especially if Israel's attacked. That's a deal that Russia has with Israel. So it's interesting that in the United States of America, a lot of the politicians are saying like Russia is the bad guy. And China, bad. But yet outside of America, it feels like other countries are making deals with each other that are, whether behind their backs, I count Canada and the US as almost one when I'm talking about this, because I get tired of saying Canada, US, Canada, back and forth. You know what I mean? Most of my audience is American anyway. But it feels like other countries aren't taking things as serious as you Americans are supposed to be taking it. Like it feels like, according to your president, that you guys are fronting the bill on a lot of stuff. That's why he went after NATO. You guys have to pay a little bit more money. That's why he went after Canada. You guys have to pay more money. You guys have been charging us tariffs forever. Even though factually, the U.S. has been selling their dairy products quite a bit cheaper than us. So that's why we put tariffs. But it's just interesting that other countries are taking care of themselves. Hello.
There he is.
My grandson is watching me on the phone.
He's on his YouTube.
So yeah, other countries take care of themselves. And yet when it comes to us, it feels like our governments aren't taking care of us. I think that's just the common, if you were to do a census right across America, across Canada, we'd all be like, yeah, it feels like the government's doing their own thing. And they're kind of secretive on what they do. They don't let us know stuff. So when it comes to Israel, it feels like Israel's doing their own thing, taking care of themselves. And I've watched interviews where Donald Trump is mad. He is PO'd over Israel when Israel would just go and do their own thing. So again, there are countries that take care of their own business. And then if you argue, in the case of Candace Owens, that America should put themselves first, all of a sudden you're considered an anti-Semite. If you don't support Israel and their wars, their endless wars, all of a sudden you're an anti-Semite. It's weird how that shift happens. And it's weird that if I talk about Candace Owens, and I'm a huge fan of her channel, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, huge fan. When you just ask the question, hey, should we be giving millions of dollars to a country that is basically looking out for their best interest, not necessarily our best interest? Is that okay? And you're considered an anti-Semite. And again, it feels like this is a little bit more in America than in Canada. And I get the idea. I get it that, if you raise your voice a little bit towards Israel, it's kind of considered taboo, especially in the Christian realm. And I've never attacked biblical Israel at all. I read my Bible quite a bit. And you guys know how many times I've read it in the last 3 years, so I won't have to say it. I read it a lot. I love reading the Old Testament. I read the entire Bible. Somebody asked me earlier today if I am on the side of Israel having all of their land, or do I think that it's non-existent anymore? Do I think that they have a say anymore today? And I said, well, actually, it's going to take me more than 5 or 10 minutes to unpack that, because it's thousands of years of history to answer that question in one foul swoop or using one scripture verse. I think to be fair, you kind of have to go through the whole Bible and study the stories and the scriptures of what happens to nations, not just Israel, but other nations, when sin hits a ceiling level. I'm thinking about Israel when they were in Egypt, or just before going to Egypt. God told Abraham that one day you guys are going to enter into the promised land, into Canaan, because of the wickedness of the Amorites. They just happened to be the leading contender for wickedness in the land of Canaan just before Israel was in Egypt, just before they're going down to Egypt. And God basically said that after about 400 years, once the sin of the Amorites reaches its peak, tippity top, I'm going to send you guys in to clean house. But, and we always skip over this part. I don't know how we do it, but we skip over it. It was not because of Israel's righteousness. It was because of the wickedness of the land. The land was actually vomiting them out. So God used Israel to come in and do Operation Clean Sweep. And people get mad and say, how could God do that? How can God use Israel to clean up that whole area? Well, they were idolaters. They were practicing bestiality, incest, destroying children, sacrificing children to gods like Molech, all kinds of hideous gods. They were worshiping every god. And when Israel was about to go into the land, God said, don't do what these guys do. Why? Because if you do it, I'm going to do the same thing to you. Instead of me coming at them, I'm going to come against you. Why? Because I'm a jealous God. And I'm telling you ahead of time not to do this. And I'm a merciful God, but I'm also a jealous God, and I'm a just God. And don't test me on this one. And Israel went in to the promised land, and they quickly turned away. They started asking questions like, who are these gods? What do they look like? What do they do? And wouldn't you know it, within a few hundred years of occupying the land, they fell away to other gods. Just about every other god under the sun. And then eventually, Syrians had to come in, clean house. Babylonians came in, cleaned house, kicked them all out of the land for 70 years, with the promise of coming back after 70 years. According to Jeremiah. And I've talked about this, where Daniel was at about the 70-year mark, and he's looking at the scriptures. He's looking at Jeremiah going, why aren't we back yet? Then an angel gets dispatched, interferes with earth, punches a hole through heaven to get to earth because there was a huge battle. The Prince of Persia was blocking Gabriel from coming to earth, and Michael had to come in and perform an audible and puncture a hole so that Gabriel can come to Daniel and say, it's actually a little bit more than that. This is a 2-layered prophecy. It's not just 70 years, Daniel. It's 490 years. So the 70 years were up. Israel starts coming back. I just finished reading Ezra. I'm reading Nehemiah as well. I'm also reading Ezekiel. And they're back. And after 70 years, a lot of the Levites have a tough time reckoning their genealogy because they're allowed to go to Babylon. They were encouraged to go to Babylon. They were discouraged from staying in the promised land, but they're allowed to go. And then they ended up marrying other wives. Just about you name a nation, the Israelites married different nations, and they came back. But that was after 70 years. Fast forward to Jesus' day, and they're giving Jesus a hard time. They, meaning the Jews, the Israelites that were still left in Judah and some of the surrounding areas, pockets in Samaria, various tribes kicking around still. And they're giving Jesus a hard time. And Jesus is spending, I would say, 95% of his time in Samaria, which is the 10 northern parts, in the area of the 10 northern tribes of Israel, and spending a small percentage in Jerusalem. And it was usually during the festivals that he would come back and hang out, and then he would leave, mostly hanging around Galilee. But the Israelites, the Jewish leaders mainly, we're talking corporately, it wasn't the people, it was the corporate leaders that were giving Jesus a hard time, saying, show us in Scripture anywhere where the Messiah is going to die. Show us he's going to do all these miracles that you're doing. Show us that he's going to come from, that he's going to live in Galilee. Like, they were constantly coming after him to try and prove him wrong because they got a lot of stuff wrong. A lot of the scriptures misinterpreted. And it got to the point where Jesus would start talking about parables. He would give them parables like, for example, a king goes off. He has a piece of land. He leaves, gives it over to his servants, and then one day comes back because he wants to basically reap the harvest from the land. I got to sneeze. It went away. All right. So he tells the parable. King goes away, and then he says, I want basically to reap what is mine, and sends his servants. And when the people that were in the land, that were harvesting the land, saw these servants coming, they beat them. Some they just beat up, others they killed. And then it got to the point where the king said, you know what, I'm going to send my son, and surely they're going to respect him. And when they saw him coming from afar off, they said, here is the heir. If we take him out, we get all of this land, all of it. So they captured him, killed the son, and Jesus said, what do you think is going to happen to those people that occupied that area that the king left in their charge under their watch? What do you think is going to happen? And they said, well, it's going to go very bad for them. He said, yes. In fact, what's going to happen is it's going to be given to another nation, because this nation, corporately, Israel was not producing any fruit. They weren't being the light to the nations. Imagine a football team that was designed specifically to win the Super Bowl, and they go to the fourth quarter. They're on the fourth down. They're on the 1 yard line. All they have to do is get into the zone, and they win the whole championship series. They win everything. They go to make the play. Turns out they run out of time because they're trying to make all these plays, and they don't even get a chance to snap the ball. Game over. Other team wins. They don't get nothing. No Super Bowl trophy. Zero. That's what happened to Israel. They dropped the ball, corporately speaking. And in fact, I'm not sure if it's Isaiah or if it was another one of the prophets that basically Israel was almost like, there's so many imagery, there's so many images of the idea of women going into labor pains and all this kind of stuff. And then at the end, when the woman has a child, she doesn't even remember about all the pain and suffering that she has, and just loves on the child. That's the imagery that happens in the Old Testament. But in Israel's case, it was almost like she looked pregnant, just really bloated, but ended up passing gas, passing wind. That's all that Israel did. And God was mad at that. But he said, you know what? I'm not going to punish you now because you're worshiping all of these other gods. I'm going to push the punishment to the latter days. This is where we get Jacob's trouble. I'm going to push it to later. But corporate Israel knew all this stuff when Jesus showed up, that they weren't going to get extinct. God said, if you can measure basically the depths of the ocean, if you could dig deep enough down in the earth and measure it, I will forget my covenant with Israel. If you can measure space, which today so many scientists say in error that they can measure how far the galaxies expand, they can't. Why? Because God said, if you can measure the galaxy, then I will forget about Israel. And people say, well, you can dig to the center of the earth. You can't. You can't even go past 6 miles. So don't give me any of that bull crap. They can't dig. They can't go to the moon. None of that stuff is possible. As God said, if you can measure it, I'll forget about Israel. So he's not forgetting about Israel, but it's not because they're righteous. It's because of his covenant that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he saw into the future that if Israel got destroyed, annihilated, extinct, all the Gentile nations would go crazy. They would get drunk and party hard. And God said, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let Israel get extinct. So then Jesus shows up and they end up killing him. And after the destruction of the temple, Israel was gone for arguably 1900 years. They weren't allowed to come back until 1948. And they came back because I believe God allowed them to come back. And there's a reason for it. It's not to get the land. It's not to destroy all the nations around them. And this is what people miss. They think, oh, they're going to destroy Assyria. They're going to destroy Israel, all the other lands, Jordan. They're going to take everything out. Iraq, Iran, all their enemies. That's the purpose of Israel coming back in 1948. And I would suggest to you that that's wrong. That's not why they came back. God is using Israel today as bait. What? Bait. In order to draw all the nations around, they got to battle somewhere. You just can't have wars everywhere, all over the world, because of Israel. That can't happen. So instead, what you got to do is you got to use Israel as bait and allow Israel to do things because they are a secular nation today. They don't believe in a king. They don't believe in God the Father like we do, because Jesus said, if you don't accept the Son, you don't get to the Father. And if you can't get to the Father because you don't have the Son. So that's pretty straightforward. I think most Christians would be on board with me. Yes, that makes sense. But what do you do with secular Israel that rejects God on every level? What do you do with them? You can't destroy them. So instead, you use them as bait to draw, like a hook in fish. You draw all the other nations to Israel, and they're coming because they hate Israel. This is why they're going to surround Israel one day. And it's because God wants Israel, one, to purge them, to turn them to himself. And they're not going to do it until they run out of their resources, until they run out of their weapons. They're not going to turn to God the Father. They're not going to accept Jesus Christ as the Messiah until they exhaust every means that they have to defend themselves on their own terms, on their own. And my fear is even the United States is going to turn against them one day in the future. Not 100%, but it feels that there is something rising up in America that is against Israel, but then people go, oh, you're being anti-Semite just for trying to go, hey, I don't want to go to war against Israel, or I don't want to go to war against Iran or Iraq or Russia or China. I don't want to go to war. Oh, you're anti-Semite. That's part of the bait that's being used to get us to fight against each other. And then it gets other people that don't like Israel mad. And they start hating on Israel, saying weird things like we got to get rid of them. And they don't even know why they're doing it. They're just like, we got to get rid of these guys. Got to get rid of them. They're horrible. Look what they're doing. And it becomes a bit of a frenzy. But when you understand it from the biblical perspective, and Jews hate this stuff. They hate it when you say, hey, this was prophesied in the Old Testament that God was going to use you as bait to draw all the nations. This is why all the nations don't like Israel today and haven't liked them for the last 2,000 years. One, at the top of the food chain or at the top of the list is because they killed Jesus Christ. And don't think God the Father forgot about that. I think just instinctively, nations are like, something's wrong here. Why are these people here in our country? They should be back in their own country, in Israel. And yet God didn't allow them back. So now they're wandering from nation to nation. And these nations are like, we don't want you here. Get out of here. Go to another nation. We don't like you. We don't like your kind. Anti-Semite. Well, part of it is because you killed Christ, and part of it is because you don't listen to God. So he allowed this to happen to you to get you to turn back to him, just like other nations. Same thing. Look at Nineveh. Nineveh's sins were going like this, and God sent Jonah to Nineveh. He said to them, you have 40 days to get your acting gear, otherwise you're going to be destroyed. And when the king found out, everybody had sackcloth and ash all over them. Every person, male, female, children, animals, all had sackcloth on their heads, mourned. And God pulled away his wrath from them. And they turned. And you know who got mad? Jonah. He said, see this? I knew you were a merciful God. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. You have a Jew that wanted Nineveh erased from existence, judged. And God said, no. Should I not have had mercy on 120,000 of these people that don't know their left hand from their right hand? You're worried about like Jonah went up on a hilltop to watch them burn, and it wasn't happening, and got mad at God, and he's like, kill me, unlife me, get rid of me. And so God created a plant, provided shadow for Jonah, and he's like, oh, this is much better now. Whew, I was starting to get a bit of a tan, feeling good, and then the next day, a little caterpillar, a little worm comes by, chews up the gourd, and Jonah's like, I'm so angry right now that this plant is dead. Like, if you want to talk about the first instance of a tree hugger, that was Jonah right here. Tree hugger. It's like, how could you do this? How could you allow this plant that was only here for less than 24 hours? How could you allow it to die? And God says to Jonah, you have only known this plant for less than 24 hours, and you're mad and you're upset. Shouldn't you feel kind of the same way about the Ninevites? There's 120,000 of them. Plus, they have a lot of cattle, by the way. Should you have not done what was right? And Jonah's like, no, I am right. I wanted them dead. This is how corporate Israel treats its enemies. Wipe them out. Wipe them off the planet. As Christians, we don't do this. We are told to pray for our enemies. Heap coal on their heads. What does that mean? Do kindness unto our enemies. We don't pick up our guns and start shooting back and attacking and going off to war against our enemies. That's not our mandate as ambassadors for Christ. That's not what we do. So when we see Israel wanting to destroy other nations, we're saying, whoa, time out here. You need to turn to God first. Allow him to take vengeance for you. Just like in the Old Testament, when you guys were cornered and your king asked everyone to pray and fast because the Babylonians were coming. Sennacherib, I think it was. You're supposed to turn to God. And when you did, he sent an angel, killed like 80,000 plus, and then they went away. Why? Because you trusted in God to save you, not your weapons. And that was the pattern for Israel. If they trusted God, God will deliver them. God said, I am the avenger. Put it on me. Put it on my tab. But Israel isn't doing that today. Corporately. They're not. You can argue with me all day long. They're not turning to God the Father. If they did, they would know Jesus Christ the Son. And there's a veil over their eyes. We know this. They hate it when you say this stuff. Talk to a rabbi and say, it's because it's a veil over your eyes. They hate that stuff. So be careful saying it to them. But it's true. Because they reject Jesus Christ. Even Ben Shapiro. I've watched interviews where he's like, yeah, we don't really want anything to do with Jesus Christ. Period. Like, he might have been a good man and all this stuff, but we don't believe he's the Son of God. We don't believe he died and raised again on the third day. None of that stuff. Zero. Then you get others like Tucker Carlson that believes in Jesus Christ, Candace Owens. And we go, oh, they're anti-Semite. It's weird. I'm telling you, it's a weird look for America. When we're supposed to be praying for our enemies, and Israel's not our enemy at all. But we should be praying for our enemies, not destroying our enemies, not annihilating them. We need to leave that to God to do that. That's his job. And this is why things are being pushed for Israel. This is why Israel's still here. They don't get wiped out today. And they're not doing anything worse. If you think about it, in the Old Testament, they were really bad. Practicing sodomy, worshiping other gods, eating pork, forgetting Sabbaths for hundreds of years. losing the Torah. It just went missing. They lost it somewhere in the temple. They couldn't find it until one of the priests brought it to Josiah the king and said, look, we found a book. That's how bad Israel was. But as bad as they were in the Old Testament, they only got cast away for 70 years and then they came back. And then it's been 1900 years. So why do you think they're not able to fully occupy all of that area? Why? Well, it's all used as bait. They are going to get that land eventually, but right now, if you ask them, they don't care about any of the 12 tribes. They're like, yeah, no, they're lost. The 10 tribes are lost. It's only Israel. That's all we are. We're Israelis. They don't even call themselves Israelites today. And they don't care about the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, or the half tribe of Manasseh. Why? It's on the other side of the Jordan. They don't care about that. They only care about their area. But that's also part of the promised land as well, because that was given to Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh. Why? Because they went ahead of the Israelites to help them with their land. And Moses said, because you did this, you get this land. But they don't care about it. It's basically the Ammonites and the Moabites still control that area on the other side of Jordan. And Israel today, like, you can't look at Israel today and go, they're at peace today. So many nations don't like them. Even in Israel itself, it's divided. They don't occupy Bethlehem. They don't occupy certain areas. There's gates everywhere. There's soldiers everywhere. The Dome of the Rock is there. That has to tell you we're approaching the latter days. We're approaching Jacob's trouble because everything is brewing at a high temperature right now, and we're coming against each other. As soon as I start talking about Candace, like, oh, anti-Semite. And I think it's because people don't read the whole Bible. They just don't. They don't read it all. They don't understand why people are offended at Israel. Again, corporate, it's not the people. I'm sure you can poll 100 people and they're like, yeah, I don't mind the idea of actually going to Israel. I'd like to go there. But they're a little bit concerned about their safety. And they're a little bit concerned that some of the Jews don't like Christians. Let's just be honest. If you go to Israel, there's certain places in Israel that you don't want to go, especially late at night, especially on the Sabbath. You could get stoned, could get rocks tossed at your vehicle. I've heard it happen. They don't like Christians. We're actually offensive to many Jews. We're talking about Orthodox Jews. They don't like the New Testament. They hate Paul. So they're our enemies right now because of the gospel, meaning they don't like us, but they're favored by God because of their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And God's not going to forget about them, even though they don't know who they are. Just like I believe it's in Ezekiel prophesies about the two-stick prophecy, which we all forget about. We like to go to war verses, but we always forget about these little tiny prophecies where God is in charge and he's going to bring back Joseph, which is representing the 10 tribes, the 10 lost tribes, and Judah, including the Levites and Benjamin. And he's going to put the two sticks together, and he's going to be their king. Who are we talking about? Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. And he's going to reign here one day in the future for 1,000 years. That's called the Millennium Kingdom. That hasn't happened yet. It's coming. But in order for that to happen, you have to evacuate the church. And we'll be talking about that in other episodes. The ambassadors, you got to clear us out So that now Jacob's trouble, which is what God was talking about, is like, look, I'm not going to punish you guys right now. I'm going to punish you later. I should punish you right now, but I'm going to do it later. So you guys got off scot-free, but there's coming a time where the whole world is going to be judged. That's called God's wrath coming down on earth. But in order for that to happen, you have to have a one world government coming against Christ, coming against God, coming against his people. And I believe that's the beast, the Antichrist, and he has to have a false prophet, and he has to have a beast system in order to do this stuff. We didn't even get to Candace Owens yet, but I get ticked that people just so loosey-goosey say things without studying scripture and actually understanding that right now the temperature is so high because I believe the Lord is coming back sooner than later. Sooner than later, you can take that to the bank. I don't know when. Could be today, could be tomorrow. I kind of feel like we have a cap of 3 years, meaning I'll be supremely surprised if we're still here 3 years from now. That's the farthest I can look out, is 3 years from now. It'll surprise me. Will it surprise me if I'm here tomorrow? No, not necessarily, because it's nighttime. I'll go to sleep, wake up, do things. But there's so many things right now that it's like a bunch of chess pieces all lining up, and it's going to happen fast when it does. This is why we're singing like canaries from the rooftops, talking about all this stuff. And I believe that Charlie Kirk's assassination was a Black Swan event that basically moved things forward a bit. And I've been talking about these agents that are trying to manipulate time and get that. For some reason that gets people mad, but just read Zechariah chapter 1, where it talks about 4 horns that are designed, their sole job is to scatter the Jews throughout all the earth. That's their goal. Scatter Israel. Keep them separate. And there are 4 carpenters that their sole goal is to bring Israel back to their land and keep things moving forward so that Jesus Christ can return. That's their job. That's the carpenter's job, to reshape time to keep it moving forward. And the enemy is trying to stall by creating all kinds of crazy wars, all kinds of crazy rumors, distractions, everything. And it distracts us as Christians to pray for Israel, to pray for those that don't know Jesus Christ, to pray for our family, our loved ones. It's distracting to us. So I think one of the things when we watch what's going on with Charlie Kirk's assassination, it is bizarro world. And I talked about that a little bit yesterday. It doesn't add up. So we're going to jump to some footage. We're going to watch a little bit of Candace Owens. So if you don't like that, too bad. It's my channel. And I like Candace Owens. I like what she's bringing to the table. And I like watching Tucker Carlson as well. And if that means that you unsubscribe because I like watching Tucker Carlson, please unsubscribe. Do it quickly, please. Because again, we live in a country where there is freedom. I don't get mad at you guys for watching Friends every single night. Do what you want. If you like watching Friends versus watching Watchmen channels, knock yourself out. I'm not going to get mad at you. If you'd rather watch Friends and read your Bible, knock yourself out. We're here and we're presenting the gospel. We're presenting prophetic timelines, if you will, to kind of show you what's going on, why nations are agitated at Israel. It's in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. God is doing it He's allowing it to happen, and he's doing it. He's orchestrating this way before the foundation of the earth was created, to teach us something, teach us about his mercy right now. There is so much mercy right now today that we have. I don't think you appreciate God's mercy until you lose it. This is why we're yelling from the rooftops. Man, the Lord can come at any time. Give your hearts to Jesus Christ before it's too late. You don't want to be here during Jacob's trouble. It's the worst time in the history of mankind, even before the flood. That wasn't as bad as what it's going to be. And we're going to be talking about that on Sunday, the days of Noah. Jacob's trouble is a bad time. And even after Armageddon, it won't be that bad again. Yes, Satan will be released from the bottomless pit after 1,000 years, but it's not even a war after that. He gathers all the nations to attack Israel when they're at peace. Are they at peace today? No, they are not. So you can't use Ezekiel to say that, oh yeah, that's the Ezekiel war. The Ezekiel war comes after the Millennium Kingdom, and it's a war that God himself ends. You don't even need soldiers for the Ezekiel war. Why? Because fire comes down from heaven. Guys should be excited about that. But Armageddon is a different story. It's the Antichrist coming against Israel after betraying Israel. So that tells you Israel makes a partnership with the Antichrist, and the Antichrist breaks the deal halfway through the 7-year commitment. And Israel has nowhere else to turn but God the Father. And they repent, the veil comes off, and they're like, oh my goodness, what did we do? And they turn to God just like they did in the Old Testament when they were surrounded. And I forget the king, I think it was Jehu, but I'm not sure. Prayed to God with all the Levites worshiping God, saying, Lord, protect us. They're coming to take us out. And that's what's going to happen at the end of Jacob's trouble. But God has to allow them to exhaust everything, all their resources. Their iron dome will be exhausted. David's sling, all their weapons will be exhausted. Lavender, everything. It will fail. Why? So that God can show his mighty power. And that's when Jesus Christ comes back from heaven with us, with the angels, to fight against the Antichrist. And the Antichrist gets taken out along with the false prophet, and they get punted into the lake of fire right away. And the devil gets captured and tossed into a bottomless pit for 1,000 years, and he must get let go. He must be set free for a short season. That's all coming. And I strongly believe that AI is a huge part of this whole thing. All right, so let's go to Candace Owens' channel and see what she has to say about Charlie Kirk's assassination here.
You know, there's this whole idea that in the future, what they ultimately want is for us to own nothing and to be happy. And we are seeing that play out right now. There's this push to seed an entire generation with this idea that they shouldn't want to own anything. They shouldn't aspire to ownership. They should just be renting. I even had a conversation with Milo Yiannopoulos, and we spoke about how that's kind of the point of making everything look really ugly and tiny, and the walls are thin. Nothing is meant to feel like it's been here for a long time. Nothing is meant to be ancestral. That's been a topic that's been in the news recently. And I go back to something that was very strange when people were telling me what happened in the Hamptons before Charlie died. But Bill Ackman gave a presentation, don't forget, and told these younger people that they shouldn't aspire to own homes. They should just want to rent. There's no point in wanting to own property. Nothing should send to you a louder...
Let me see if I can just get to it right away here. I think it's right here. Let's see here.
And replaying that clip, there's something about it now that almost sounds prophetic of him discussing what you would want to do and what allies you want to have when bullets are flying. Take a listen. People have to understand that we live in a different world now, but don't think because you follow me or that you follow Charlie that this has by any means been easy. There have been moments where I've sat him down and he thought that his whole life was over and was like, if this is, they're just trying to kill me and destroy me. And I'm like, get your head out of the sand. Like we fight, we go on. And there have been moments that I've called you and said like, this is it. It's over. Like, I can't do this anymore. And he's been like, you get your ass up out of bed and you keep going. And it's so, so important for you guys to understand that. The next day, it always does get better, guys. It gets better.
Here's the other thing is giving up should never be an option. And also surround yourself with people like Candace that whatever you're doing that can relate. And that when you say something that they're going to tell you, the truth and they're going to be honest, but they'll also have your back. And I understand this might sound cliche, but it's so hard to find that.
Right.
It's so hard to find that kind of loyalty that, the kind of the old expression is, when you're in a foxhole, you want someone who is not going to tell you that there's no bullets being fired. You want just to say where the bullets are coming from.
Right. Yeah. That's right? Exactly right. Yeah.
This is important too, because this is where we're at right now. People are like, don't look into this. Don't talk about Charlie Kirk. Nothing to see here. Trust the feds. And really, this is the time that we need to stick together. This is where you find out who your true friends are and are not. When they start attacking you, they start throwing out things like, if you're with Candace, if you're watching her stuff, you could be anti-Semite. And it's like, really? You don't even understand what anti-Semite is. Obviously, you have no idea. And you probably don't read your Bible. I can come back at you just as harshly. But to just throw that out there and call me anti-Semite, which... As you know me, I spend at least 2 hours a day reading the Bible every single day for the last 3.5 years, reading a Jewish Bible, the Torah, the prophets, the major prophets, the minor prophets, the writings, the New Testament. If you think about what Paul says, because there was an argument going on, like, who are the real Jews? Who are the real Israelites? Are you talking about replacement theology, Shane? Paul himself said a true Jew is one that is circumcised in the heart. So what does that tell you? It's not about genealogy. You got to get away from that stuff. You have to get away from it. If you start thinking about genealogy, race, that's what makes a Jew, that's where you're going to get into trouble. Start thinking about following the law, you're going to start getting into trouble as well. It's because you're not reading the New Testament. You're not even reading the Old Testament. You're not even reading the whole Bible. You're just throwing out things, calling people names. And if you read the Old Testament, you would understand Israel is one of the most mixed nations on the planet. What? How can you say this? Because I read the Bible. They're mixed. Why do you think they're not allowed to do a DNA test in Israel? Why? Because it doesn't matter about your genealogy. They don't know where they come from. Again, it's prophetic. Joseph doesn't know who he is. That's God saying it. But God says, I know who are mine. I call them. They know my voice. Who do you think that is? That's those that know Jesus Christ. There's no way around it. Like, you guys are making up stuff now if you're going into genetics. It's not about genetics. It's about the heart. God is the same in the Old Testament as he is in the New Testament. It was always about mercy. He hated sacrifice. And this is what people fail to I guess, really sit down and think about this. You're so eager to go back to the 10 commandments, all 613 laws. You're so eager to go back to that, to sacrifice, to earn your salvation, not realizing that Jesus Christ freed us from the curse of the law. What is the curse of the law? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's a double-edged sword is what the law is. Meaning, not only can you not fulfill all the laws, not only can you not keep all the laws, but if you miss one, it's like you broke them all. So if you do 612, it's like you did 0. So it doesn't matter if you try and pretend that you keep the Sabbath. One, you're lying, so you just broke them all. Darn it, I'm out right away because I'm a liar. And I lie every single day by telling people that I keep the law when in the New Testament, I think it's in James or somewhere, basically no one can keep the law. No one has ever done it. So let's not kid ourselves with the idea of saying, now that we're a Christian, let's keep the law. 1, you don't have a temple. 2, you don't live in Jerusalem. 3, it was for the Israelites, not for the Gentiles. It was for transgressors. Until Jesus Christ came and fulfilled the law, he fulfilled everything. He became the curse for us. What don't you understand about that? Run away from the law. Dummies will say, are you saying kill people? That's because you're an idiot. You're dumb. You're moronic in your thinking. It's corrupt. Your mind is corrupt. Run to Jesus Christ. It says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. And people run to the 613 commandments and break them all. It's not what Jesus Christ is saying. Love other people more than yourself and you'll fulfill the law. Because the law can't come against love. That is one of the only gifts that you can take into eternity is your love for your fellow man. You can't take anything else with you to heaven. The only thing that you can take to heaven is how you treated people here today. And our mission is not to go against other nations and take them out. It's weird to me. I don't understand that stuff. And it's weird to watch other nations who pretend they're acting on behalf of God that want to annihilate other nations. Talking about Israel, corporate Israel. Talking about America. They changed their name to the War Department, not the Defense Department. People will say to me, oh, Shane, we used to be called that. Yeah, well, that's not a good thing to hang your hat on. Sorry. To be known as warmongers. That's just not okay with me. It's weird. It's bizarro world to go after other nations and bomb their citizens. It's just, I've never agreed with that. Not for 1 minute. Nor will I ever agree with that. I don't believe in war. I don't. You want to take me out? Fine, take me out. I know where I'm going. I don't have to be sent on a plane somewhere else to destroy other nations. That's just, call me a pacifist if you will. That's not my job here on earth. My job is not to take life. My job is to give life through Jesus Christ and love on others. That's my job. That's my calling. All right, so let's go back.
I don't want someone in the foxhole with you being like, well, want to get a hot dog?
Right.
Like, maybe a burger or a smoothie. You want to say, no. There's a machine gun nest over
Right.
there. There's mortar shells coming from there.
Right.
Well, here's what we're going to do
Here's
to be
the
able to
plan
do
of
that.
action to get out of this.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the type of friend that you want. And you definitely don't want one that's going to run for the hills behind
Right.
you.
Yeah,
And
we've
you're
had
alone.
those.
Run-
We've had those.
yes.
We definitely know who our allies are.
First and foremost, I watched this and it made me feel great to hear that from him. Like, we got to keep fighting and you got this. The second thing, though, is it infuriated me because it is just, talk about a psychological operation. They moved in to try to rewrite history and convince masses that Charlie Kirk and I weren't friends. I will never get over that. I will actually never get over how
And that's the funny thing. Like the fighting that Candace is talking about is that friends need to stick with friends. You need to stick together, not fight against each other, not take each other out. And I'm seeing this. They'll say things like Candace isn't Christian. Tucker Carlson isn't Christian. They're anti-Semite. You must be one of them. You're probably one of the psyops. She's a psyop. She's a Mason. All this stuff. Like they throw this stuff out. They throw this stuff out like it's just nothing. And for some reason, let me just see here. There it is. Okay. My little computer was dying, but I think it's okay. I think it's okay now. It's coming back. It's coming back. But yeah, people just throw this stuff out like crazy. They just call you names. Like where I grew up, you don't call somebody anti-Semite or racist or any of that kind of stuff for sharing an opinion. It's weird. It's really weird.
absolutely insane and deranged the media is. They tried to invert reality, actually. The people that weren't his friends were suddenly pretending that they were his friends and his supporters. I just will never forgive them for that. That is insane. But what we're saying there is important. Loyalty is hard. And I was amazed watching that ending, the way he describes a person behind him walking away, almost wild, considering Mikey McCoy, the amazing Mikey McCoy, the not so amazing Mikey McCoy. And then he says this, he points over to the left there. And I'm now thinking, well, if he was right about what was happening behind him, what if there was something going on the left now that I'm thinking about, or what I brought up to you, which was that bush. I have in the back of my mind been wondering about this bush. I have questions about that bush that they said Butch was talking to. Again, I want to be clear. We see him near the bush by himself. We have no evidence to show that he was actually talking to the bush. These are eyewitness accounts on that day. And I just feel that maybe something may have been going on in that bush, right? Now, there is an individual that I have had questions about, and I have tried to discern through private means who this individual is, and I have had no luck. So I'm going to ask the public for help because he's had my attention for a while. Foremost, because throughout the event, I noticed that he was halfway standing in the bush. Obviously, I've looked at so much content, different angles, so many videos, and he's kind of partially in the bush. And I don't feel that it's necessary for him to be partially in the bush. It was not that crowded of an event. There was definitely space. The second thing that's compelling is that he's wearing a maroon shirt. And when Charlie goes down, he stood out to me because everyone ducks, but he just sort of keeps standing and seems to go inward into the bush and then out of the bush. And then I saw him from behind and he's very calm. He never ducks and then he sort of calmly walks away. Want to be clear, does not mean he's guilty of anything. But I'd like to speak to him because he might have some more insight as to what was going on in that bush. So first, regarding that bush, many of you guys emailed us and pointed to the...
What's interesting too is Candace has a bunch of feelers out. She has a bunch of people that are sending in information, sending her hot tips. And I believe it's because of her journalistic background where she's like, you know what, let's ask the hard questions and let's get this out in the open. Like she asked, why did you take the camera footage? Why was that the first thing that you did and gave to the feds? Why didn't you take the camera down? Like why why were some people running and some people weren't? And the people that weren't running were the ones that had cameras on. And there's more questions, but I don't think there's anything wrong with asking questions. And people get mad at Candace because it seems like she's the only one that's asking these questions. And they get mad, they call her they make up stuff like she's quoting the Quran, she's anti-Semite, and it's clear that she does not like Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. Doesn't like the things that he says because, again, with this letter thing that he said was from Charlie. So you got to understand, she had her friend murdered in public, and unless you have that happen to you, you don't understand what she's going through. And what I think is a normal response is to try and get to the bottom of this. And she said right out of the gate, if my husband tells me to stop going after this, or if Erica tells me to stop going after this, I will do it. I will stop. But Erica hasn't. And in fact, Erica was asked point blank, do you think they caught your husband's killer? And she said, my team is great. We have an amazing team. She didn't even answer the question. So that tells you, Candace, go max. Keep digging. Keep going.
Fact that when the shooting happens, there's suddenly people on the side that are directing you, saying, go, 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 almost like they're actually maybe kind of protecting the bush. That might not be the circumstance, but we're going to show that clip
Yeah, this is
anyway
weird.
of a guy that does actually, as we looked, seem to be directing traffic away from the bush. Take a look at this.
I don't know who's been shot.
Now, I get the idea that you have somebody that's directing traffic, I guess. This guy right here in the white in the circle. But there's also another person that's at the bottom of the screen that's in the bush. And it seems like there's people that just hang out in the bush texting or something. It's really weird. And I find it baffling that there are some people that have cameras that aren't moving. But if you notice down, and I think up to the top right-hand corner, you see there's a tripod there. That's the camera that was positioned probably in full 4K showing Charlie Kirk, but we never see that footage. We always see footage of one person way off in the distance of Charlie Kirk being shot. We never see this close up in 4K. Gotta ask yourself why. Why are we getting all the shaky cams when there's literally cameras from all over this campus? And they edit it and all kinds, and they shake it and all this stuff. And even this guy here that's playing this footage here, live is today or something. Live is. We'll talk about this guy. But this guy went right down there to where Charlie Kirk got shot, and nobody told this guy to go away, which is weird. And this guy here just happens to be right here filming the whole thing live. It's bizarre. Come back to that.
Right there on the side. You got people on the side there, standing, pointing away. Okay. Yeah, and there's someone in there like texting in a blue shirt. Now, that could be because there's a shooting and that's a safe spot to be in and somebody can't see you. Maybe that's why you're doing that. Doesn't mean anything, but I'm just pointing that out because we have to gather evidence that we're never going to get from the feds. The second thing that I want to show you is what I just described, which is the clip of the person that I'm looking for who doesn't duck and calmly walks away. This is that individual. This is a front angle. You see that circle right there. You keep playing that. I've watched from other angles. Never goes down. Goes.
So that guy's a camera guy as well. And for some reason, when everybody else ducked, he just kind of stood there and then went back towards the bushes. And another thing that's weird is, and we've talked about this a little bit, but Charlie Kirk actually got shoved after he got shot. He didn't fall over in his chair like the narrative was, where he got shot, leaned over, and then fell over. They shoved him, which is bizarre. It's bizarro. Let's continue.
Walks out of the bush. And I know that the police were looking for someone in a maroon shirt immediately after because somebody shared text messages with me that I did not publicize because I didn't want to. I just felt that it would go back to that source. Now, this individual I was able to discern was in a photo with somebody else who's caught my attention. Of course, the media began playing. They had all of these clips of what happened. And there was one individual who was Indian who they got a lot of the footage from that day from. And what's interesting about this guy, Samir, was very public. He's been covering everything. He was not a Charlie Kirk fan. He somehow has a lot of footage and somehow immediately gave this footage to the media. I reached out to him privately and I asked to have a conversation, asked to send his number, despite speaking with the media for weeks, giving them all of this footage. And despite oddly being allowed to interview Astrid Tumenez, I think a lot of people have done videos on Astrid Tumenez, the strange background story of Astrid Tumenez, the president of UVU. He didn't want to send me his number. I wanted to ask him basic questions. One of the questions I wanted to ask him was, hey, you are in a photo with this person in the maroon shirt from that day. He posted a photo with him and the guy in the maroon shirt. And he makes it clear that they both went to BYU, his friend. I would like to know who Samir's friend is on the left. That's who I'm looking for. You might recognize this individual. If you do, and again, we are not saying he's guilty of anything, but he might know if there was some activity in that bush. Please email moretips@CandaceOwens.com. Moretips@CandaceOwens.com. Okay. Moving on from the person in the maroon shirt, but sticking on to this topic of the bush, people also sent me a ton of information about Butch Hibbs, Jack Hibbs' brother, who was here. And he maybe might have been speaking to that bush. I don't know. But he wasn't the only person, by the way, who was in that bush before the event. Here's another photo that was sent to us of a guy. I don't know. Maybe he's comfortable in his bush. Who knows? Another guy in a maroon shirt. I never knew so many men loved maroon shirts.
It's so weird. Like, I get the idea that you're hiding or something, but it's weird, man. Like, there's so many people in the bush. This guy's on his cell phone, and it's a mystery. It is a mystery to me. You can say that's normal behavior. I think normal behavior is to get out of there, not to stick around, I think.
Never even knew that. But we have another guy in there. Again, he literally might just be sending a private text. I don't know, but people sent us that, and that's interesting. And on the topic of Butch Hibbs, we got a flurry of videos of him after this shooting takes place. He's kind of just like crawling the area. He's up and around where the shooting happened. With what clearance, I don't know. You would think that they had secured the area and nobody would be allowed to go in. They certainly seem to have crime scene tape, but some people were allowed in. He was. And beyond that, he is just acting what I would say is strange, generally being shady. And in this one clip, there's a guy who's talking to the media about what he heard, and what he saw. And Butch is kind of just lingering in the background, almost as if he wants to know what that person is telling the media. I'm going to play that clip for you. You're going to see Butch in the background as another individual is being interviewed about what he heard and saw.
I don't know. It sounded like a higher caliber. It sounded like a higher caliber, like a 9mm.
Yeah, it's weird that guy shows up all over the place. And I'm going to show, let's see if I can find this here. I'm going to show the actual footage. Give me 1 second here. I actually have another piece of footage to show, and it'll show you what kind of happens before that guy gets here. And it is kind of weird. It's actually a bizarro world. Let's see here if I can find it. Yeah, right here, this guy. So this is from Live is Driving. That's the name of the channel. And this guy never I don't know, just didn't phase him at all. Charlie Kirk was shot. Like, it was just weird. Let's go here. So he's at a Charlie Kirk live event where the shooting happened, and he's covering it live. So this is a few minutes before the shooting where he's basically just walking around. And then what gets weird is he goes over, like he's clearly knows his way around this area. That's not the weird part. So you can see, like, this has to be the worst place, I think, on the planet to have a conference if you're worried about security. Look at all the people on the rooftops everywhere. Like, it's craziness to have that many people. But let's just fast forward a little bit here. And this guy spends a lot of time right here. This is so bizarre. Right here, talking to these guys.
This is the audio.
He's talking to somebody beside him about how hidden his camera gear is. He's doing a live stream. They can't even tell that he has a mic or a camera or anything, but he's interviewing these people. They know he has a live stream, I guess. But it's weird that he spends time, and these people are waiting for him to ask them a question about Charlie Kirk.
Captured.
Look how
And these guys don't like Charlie Kirk.
tiny that is. Wow.
It's my own.
So they do their little speech. So he hangs out here, asks them.
Condoning someone who's pushing the U.S. to become more authoritarian and is violating the Constitution every which way.
He confused a dolphin fetus with a human fetus.
So they're basically slamming Charlie Kirk, but that's not what I wanted to show. Basically, they're doing the little thing, don't legalize racism. So it's all about racism. And then right here, watch this. This is just seconds before Charlie Kirk gets shot. Watch this.
Like the love one another thing. It's like love everyone.
Love everyone, regardless of race, everything.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys coming out here.
We appreciate you. Love you
You gonna
too.
go down and see the.
So the interview's done. Talk about race, all this kind of stuff. And seconds after, like, the timing of it is uncanny.
Get closer? Are they like restricting you guys up here or what?
Nah, it's too crowded.
It's just there's just so much. So
Before we had a flag and we had.
He just got shot! Holy shit! Holy shit!
So this guy stays there. Everyone else runs. But he stays right there, not knowing if there's a shooter on any other rooftop to take him out. It is kind of a joke that the cameraman never gets killed, but it is kind of weird in this situation that this guy had no fear. Zero. It's bizarre.
You guys okay? Okay, love you. Be safe. Okay, be safe. Bye. Apparently there's been a shooting. I don't know who's been shot.
He doesn't know who's been shot. Apparently there's been a shooting. Really?
We are here live at Utah Valley State University. I don't know if that was shots or if that was fireworks, to be honest, but
I've heard that so many times where people are like, I don't know. It sounded like fireworks. I don't know when one shot would sound like it, but I get what they're saying because it is different than Hollywood. It is different than movies. A gunshot sounds way different. But when you see the narrative from TPUSA, they basically say that Mickey McCoy was covering his ears because it was so loud. It's like, well, are you talking about the gunfire? Are you talking about the crowd? What are you talking about here? So let's just continue.
good. How are you doing?
Were you able to see anything that happened?
I was standing right here interviewing people. Hang on. Charlie Kirk got shot. Charlie Kirk has been shot in the neck This is unconfirmed. This is from my son who was down there right in front of Charlie Kirk. We're going to go down there and see if we can.
So his son was down there who watched it, happened to be on the phone, I guess, because I don't know if this guy called out, but as his phone, I guess, or his son calling him saying that Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck. So let's just go down. See what these guys have.
Down there and see if we can.
Let me find this here. Okay, let's just see if we get some suspicious activity of some people. So he goes right to where Charlie Kirk is. No fear. Zero. Goes through the bushes or by the bushes. There are people taking pictures there too. And I haven't seen any photos yet of any blood. Like of people taking videos of that area, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 20, 30 people there. So there would be witnesses to say, man, underneath the tent, there was so much blood. It was disgusting. But nobody's saying that. And notice that camera, I think, is gone now. I don't see that camera there anymore. Because remember, unless it's right behind this guy. So this guy here to the left, I forget what his name is, Andrew or something. He's making his way over to where I'm pretty sure that's one of the guys that goes over to another kid that is trying to tell the media what he saw. And then he basically jumps in front of him and says, we're not doing this right now. So somehow the guy that is responsible for holding the mic for people that are asking Charlie Kirk questions makes his way over to the left of where this young guy is trying to explain to the media what he saw happen. And he tells him not to say anything. I'll see if I can find that later.
I'm getting out of here.
So notice that camera's gone. The one that was here. I see a stand, I think. It could be a mic stand, don't know. But remember the camera that was there? That seems to be gone. There is something here to the right. Don't know what that is. And then obviously the 2 cameras in the back of the tent.
You guys up this way. Let's go that way. Hey! That way.
Oh yeah, that camera still is there. So this guy here and whatever kind of a shirt that is, beige or whatever, there's a camera pointing right at Charlie Kirk. And nobody's, as far as I know, shown any of that footage yet. Right in front of him. That would have been the first camera angle that you'd want to see. Right there, there's that camera. Some people are trying to say that this was a hologram image and all this stuff. I don't think so. Like I talked about it on my channel a bit, but I think when you see people walking around behind here, that's not a hologram. That looks like just cameras. But it was an interesting thought. But I won't talk about that too much on this video here.
Recording off this stuff.
So these guys are already now talking about the idea. We got to get this footage. We got to take this out. We got to take this footage right away. We don't want anybody to see this footage. We're talking about it, unawares that this guy is actually filming it live. And parks right there. And then you got this dopey guy here hiding his gun or whatever, like walking around, I don't know, like he's a little bit too late, a little too late. Then you got a guy to our right as well on the phone, has a gun as well. So I think that's some of his security. Remember, the guy that's running the camera right now, nobody knows he has a camera. That's why he's able to stand there. They're unaware that there's actually somebody filming them. Because he just talked about when he was up on the upper platform, he just finished bragging and saying, look, it's very hard for people to see this. I built this contraption myself so that I can do a live stream everywhere. And the friend that he was with was saying, wow, that's amazing. You can hardly see it. It's like, where's the mic? He's like, right here. So these guys are unaware that they're being recorded right now.
Safety team is here. I just heard them say the active shooter, Charlie Kirk, has been shot. Charlie Kirk got hit.
So now they're taking, it's so bizarre. Now they're taking the footage from that camera. It's weird, right? Sure. I'm just reading the comments here. Couldn't they be saying that because they want to secure the evidence? Yeah, they gave it to the FBI right away. I would have made a copy of it and then gave it to the FBI. Because the last thing you want is that footage to never see the light of day as evidence. And I think Candace said she saw it. She saw the footage and there was no blood. So that is a mystery to me about the no blood. And there you can see the red shirts in the background. That's probably just a few minutes. I think one of the guys' name is Andrew. I'm not sure. But they're basically volunteering for the day to help out, to help hold the mic for any of the people that are speaking to Charlie Kirk. You could see a microphone in front of one of the security guys. That's where the questions were being asked. And then, so this guy here is on the left. I don't know what his name is, but he's taking the footage. Could it be because of security? Maybe. I kind of feel like they're just kind of hiding the footage.
Is what the security detail just said.
Seems like there's lots of commotion on the other side by that pink tent. So these guys did take the cameras down. They took the footage. So that kind of makes sense that they're going to take all the camera down.
My son just messaged me. Get him out. Hey, you go right now. Get out of here.
So he's going to come over to, I think, this guy that's standing there and talk to him. I don't know if you could see him right there, that guy. He's going to ask him a question about what did he see. And he's just standing there with the handbag. But what I want to do is I want to focus on the person behind the guy that's being interviewed.
He's out. He's out. He made it out. He's fine. He's out. He made it out. He's looking for you. Where are you?
Let's see here.
Did you hear that he got hit for sure?
My son here told
He's
me
either
that
hit in the neck or the chest.
Yeah.
I've heard mostly the neck, but I've heard chest a couple times.
I talked to one of the officers. He said he got hit hard. I just pray it's in his shoulder.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That's almost like it was set up because the second speaker was the one talking about guns. And then the next thing you know,
Yeah, that must be.
you know what I mean?
So bizarre.
Yeah, that does sound fishy.
He's a close friend of my brother's.
Wow. Where's the Sorensen Center, Liam?
Okay, let me just see if I can find this guy. Yeah, right here.
Definitely shocking.
So watch this guy to the right. See this dopey guy over here to the right? Watch him come over to where this guy is standing.
In your eyes.
Well, my name's Eric. I was standing about the third level back, so probably 50 feet from Charlie. I heard a shot which took my attention away from Charlie, and when I looked back at him, it had protruding from his neck or his head about 6 inches or more. I think he's going to survive.
Shooter or at long range? Any idea?
I don't know. It sounded like a
This guy here, number 47 hat, just shows up and he's just kind of hanging around, eavesdropping a little bit. That's what Candace was like wondering. Why is this guy just hanging around whenever there's an interview? What's he up to?
higher caliber. It sounded like a higher caliber, like a 9mm. It didn't sound like a 45 or anything, but I don't know.
Sounded like a 40. What did he say? 45, a higher caliber gun? That's not a 30-06. You hear a 30-06, you know it's a rifle. So again, this is what makes people suspect when you start interviewing people and they're like, yeah, it sounded like a firecracker, sounded like a gun, a handgun or something.
It's going to survive.
Shooter or at long range? Any idea?
I don't know. It sounded like a higher caliber. It sounded like a higher caliber, like a 9mm. It didn't sound like a 45 or anything, but I don't know.
9mm. For some reason, I unless I'm wrong, but I could be wrong, I think a 9mm is less than a 45. I think a 45 is more powerful than that. And I think the guy that's running the camera is asking this guy, was it a high power rifle? Let's see here. Any footage from the drones? Wouldn't that be amazing in this day and age when we have drones and we get nothing? Weird, right?
It didn't sound that deep to me. It almost sounded.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm in shock.
And they cut him off. Almost sound like it wasn't a rifle.
I am too.
Weird, right?
Too. I can't believe it happened in Utah, of all places.
All places.
Larry has so much support, but obviously the opposition was here. And now we're looking at a murder scene, possibly. It's obviously a crime scene.
They sure didn't treat it like a crime scene. Like there should have been police there roping off the area. And that's the shocking thing. Like they grabbed Charlie Kirk, threw him in a vehicle and took him out when this is a murder scene. You don't do that at a murder scene. You leave everything as is. You don't touch the camera footage. You don't touch anything. It's locked down.
But I don't think that Charlie can survive this unless the EMTs were close, and it was pretty, I mean, rated R level kind of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No
Appreciate
problem.
your.
Seeing this guy, like, I don't know if he moves after, but he's just kind of like within earshot, just hanging around. Don't know why. Kind of a mystery. Bizarre.
You see what happened? I was up on the balcony interviewing the love and tolerance crowd.
We kind of heard what happened, but we heard it. It was real. We were probably maybe 20 feet away.
You guys here to hear Charlie speak, or?
Yeah, we were.
Well, prayers to him.
Well, what a coincidence that he was talking about gun violence, and then all of a sudden this happened. It's like, well, what are the chances of this shit happening to here, bro? Like, it's scary. Like,
it's terrifying.
It freaks everyone out. Like, it just ruins the whole experience for everyone. Like, I don't know. Like, come on, bro. I'm glad no one else got hurt. Pray for Charlie.
Yeah, pray for Charlie. Thanks, guys.
Weird. Can tell people are shocked, but it's interesting that this keeps coming up. Right when he's talking about gun control, he gets shot.
Well, no, I'm saying here comes people. They are reportedly shot.
See, these people don't really know unless they see his mic in his hand, but they don't know they're being filmed as well.
Did you guys see what happened?
Was it like a loud, like?
They just ignore him.
All right, everybody, you need to leave the area all the way up and all the way to the south. Everybody leave.
Now they do it. Feels like they should have done that at the very beginning. Almost like nobody move. Freeze. And again, these guys don't know that this guy has a camera on him.
Push the button in there. Okay. So active. The police said it could have come from up on the roof, but they arrested a guy down right in front of Charlie, so there might have been. It could have been. I'm not really sure.
Okay, here's, I think it's this guy with the red hat. When he went inside, I think that's the guy that said, we're not doing this. We're not. Oh, yeah, there. The guy on the left there. Weird, these three guys together. Huh. It's interesting. I wish I could see more footage of this here.
We don't know.
That is him on the right. He's the guy that said to the other guy, we're not doing this right now. Shut him down right away. All right. Enough of that. So, all right. So, what did we learn so far? Like, there's the evidence is still out, obviously, as to what happened here with Charlie. I think drone footage would be cool to see. I'm expecting more angles, but yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I can't figure it out. But what I'm going to do is, what time is it right now? I'm going to take a break from this channel. I'm going to see if I can hop over to Derek's channel. So go over to Bible study to Derek. I think he has a Bible study on right now talking about Jeremiah chapter 1 to chapter 3 or whatever. So I might pop over there and say hello and chit chat for a little bit. So if you guys want to do that, head over to Bible study with Derek, and I will see you there again if Derek is still on. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you later. Bye for now.